Hi, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Beans Recording, and this is a series of videos on the Teenage Engineering OPZ, a digital grooveboxy workstation thing that looks like a TV remote and sounds like anything you want it to be. It's pretty damn cool, but it's kind of weird, and I'm trying to demystify it for everybody so that you can see why I think it's one of the most interesting things that's out right now. I've been pretty inspired by this. So today we're going to go over step components, which is probably one of the more confusing things. But if you're familiar with Electron boxes, the Digitag, Digitone, Octatrack, etc., you will be kind of familiar with these. So the first thing we need to do is make a sequence. I'm going to select the track and quantize. Okay. So that's all well and good. That's not a bad sequence, but then we can make things a lot more interesting. If I hold this key right here, this shift key, and I go into this mode and press a note, I now have access to all the step components that are listed here. Each one of these is a component, and then when I select it, I'm going to have the ability to change the amount that it works on something. So let's just go through each one. The first one is repeat step 1 through 9 times every cycle. So right now, everything defaults to 4. So you can hear it just repeated. If I want to go change that step again, I just hold shift, hold the trig that has the step component, and then I can change the amount. So 1 is just going to repeat it one time. It's going to be normal. 2, obviously 2, 3, 3, 4. I don't know if 0 is random. It is. Okay. So you can already hear that my sequence, because that step is getting repeated, is kind of shuffling down the line. It's changing every single time, which means that I've just turned a 16-step static sequence into something that is constantly morphing. And that's one of the amazing things about step components is you take this static sequence and you can just funk it up really, really well, which is awesome. So we're going to go ahead and remove that step component and go to the next one. This is a hold the step. So instead of repeating it like it did last time, it's going to hold that step for the amount of time that you press the black key for. So 1 is going to be just 1. It's going to be the normal amount. 4 is going to be 4 steps that it's going to hold it. So again, this is going to change the way that my sequence plays back. If I go back in here and change that to 0, it should be random. By the way, you can stack step components, and I'm going to show you that in a second. This next one is a multiply trigger. So as opposed to repeating on the grid, this is going to multiply it like a ratchet. And you can go from 1, which isn't really that interesting, up to 8. So you can hear that really little quick burst. Now remember I said I could stack step components? So I've just taken that single step trig, and I have now told the step component to hold that for 4 steps and also multiply. And that didn't work like I thought it was. Let's see. Oops, yeah. So select the step component, go like that. Okay, so that's not working exactly like I thought, but stacking step components is good. We'll get to it in a second. So modify step velocity. And by the way, you can select multiple steps and add a component to it if you want. I was thinking that with the step component velocity change, I could probably do like a fake side chain. So I could have these two be at like 2, and then these two could be at 6. And I could repeat that down the line and have it kind of bounce up and down on beat, which is neat. Next one is a ramp notes upward within range 1 through 8. And this is going to change depending on where I have the amount up here. So let's just go ahead and let's go make it long as well so we can hear it. And we'll go through it. You can hear it's ramping up. Now on a 3rd ramp up, 4, 5. So it's going up every single time it hits that note. I just added the multiply trigger, which now that I've introduced more notes before that ramp, it's able to do the ramp faster. It's trilling every single time it's going, and you can hear it cycle as well, which is cool. If I go back to my ramp here and change it to like 2, it's only going to go up 2 notes in that ramp. So stacking step components is very, very, very cool. Randomize. So will the other ones ramp up and down? This randomizes the note that it's going to be on. And you can change the range that it selects that random note from. Next up is glide. And you can select the amount that you want it to glide. It's like a forced portamento on that one note, which is really nice. The shorter the value, the faster it glides. Next up is sweep parameters with range. And it's going to sweep through the synth's parameters here within a range that you dictate. Now, the range that it's talking about here, I'm not really sure what it is. Okay, so every single button that you push here, every different one here, is going to select different parameters to sweep through, which is super cool. You can hear that last one there was a pan. So you're able to add almost like another LFO, so you don't have to dedicate an LFO to the pan or to the filter if you don't want. That's sweeping through the actual synth parameters itself. For default, and there's the filter. So that particular one gives you access to another set of hands for a particular set of parameters here, which is super useful considering you only have one LFO. Modify the tonality of the step. Oops, sorry. As much as I'd love to tell myself that I'm an expert here, I don't really hear a lot going on there. So some of these step components modify the tone of the parameter, and some of them sweep through the other ones. We had a couple other ones here that change the timing of the pattern depending on their settings. So the hold and the repeat. Over here we have a jump to step. So this is going to say jump to another step every single time you hit this thing. And it's going to jump to step 6 every single time it hits this step. That's not very interesting, is it? Let's go ahead and change the number on it. So it's jumping to this next step. So it's not jumping to it's jumping to the next active step, which is different than jumping to the next blank step. So that's pretty cool. As far as I can tell. I don't know. I could be bullshitting you. I absolutely could be bullshitting you. All of these are very, very useful and very, very cool, but sometimes you don't want a note or a step component to hit every single time, because that's boring. And that's where the last three, the spark components, come in. And this is where, if you've used an electron box, you're going to be familiar with what these are. These are sort of like conditional triggers. All that step componenting hurt my fingers. Send help, please. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of step components on this step right here. I want to go long. I want to ramp up. I want a random. Oh, I'm already ramping, so that's fine. Okay, and then this one, I want long. I want repeat and let's say random note. Great. Okay. So I funked up my sequence. That's wonderful. But I want these to only happen every once in a while. So I have these spark components over here. The first one is ignore parameter locks every 1 through amount of bars that you say. The second one is ignore step components every 1 through 9 bars. And again, you choose those bars up here. And then ignore the trigger itself every 1 through 9 bars. And you can stack all those, which is super, super cool. So I don't want these step components to play all the time. I only want them to happen every once in a while. So I'm going to do 2, for instance. And now it's only going to introduce those step components at the amount of time that I've told it to. So hear that second repeat, second bar? It introduced the step components on that second bar. I'm going to do the same thing for this one right here so that we can really get a sense of what it's doing. So, clean. Second bar, it plays them. And if I go into this step component, I can change this to 4. So now it'll only play those step components at the end of 4 bars. Now the same can happen for trigs. So I like to do this on drums. So let's go over to like our percussion track. Okay. Quantize. So I'm going to go over to these 2 here, and I'm going to call these like a fill, basically. I only want these to come on after like 4 bars, or I'm going to do 2 bars just because it's more obvious at this point. So select, ignore trig every 2 bars. And you're going to hear that introduce itself after this sequence has repeated once. So let's go over to our snare track, introduce these 3 trigs here. Now that's only going to hit every 2 bars. Starting to see how you can use this for like fills and stuff like that. And again, I can have a different amount for anything that's going on here. So now that will repeat only, I could do 3 and have it sort of like weirdly offset. And I could also do, let's see, a step component that did a ratchet at 4, and I'm going to ignore that every 2 bars. You hear that ratchet just come in on the sequence where it hit? This is surprising me. I don't know what's going on. Like, this stuff is all happening because of the step components, and that's really, really, really cool. Really powerful, really, really fun, and being able to use the spark conditions to tell it when I don't want them to be on, including the trigs and stuff like that. It's just, you start getting really, really complex, really, really fun stuff. Final thing, step components work on blank trigs as well. So for like this ARP track, so here's some blank trigs right here. I can still have the step component do something on it. Including jumping around. Glide. Or jump to another step. So now I've just created this weird evolving ARP thing, which is pretty cool. So that's a brief introduction to step components, and they are one of the coolest things about the OPZ. So fun, so good. Great for a lot of different genres. Techno, IDM, ambient, just adding a little bit of variation to something. Just like it's really, really inspiring to have this sequence play itself in a way that like an Ableton or something like that, or even the Electron boxes, I would have a hard time doing this. It's just like, yeah, some of them are gimmicky. Yeah, some of them are like a little unruly, but the results are undeniable. Like, it's just really, really, really fun. So that's Step Components. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Beans Recording. If you want to watch more videos about the OPZ, check the playlist description or the end card, and have a wonderful day.